Hi everyone, it's BritSimon. So I wanted to give a couple of updates. Today, Friday, is the day when Zarthisius normally posts his updates on the SEAC data. And I expect to see that in a couple of hours' time, and I'll take a look at that. But I was able to get hold of a file today from Alex, one of the other guys that does extracts from the SEAC system. And I spent a little bit of time looking at that because I wanted to see the progress that's being made in Africa. Africa mainly. And I looked at all the regions, and I explained this in a few minutes about other regions. But Africa had a pretty big leap, pretty big jump, as some people will say, in the Visa Bulletin. In the last Visa Bulletin, it went from 26,500 to 40,000. And whenever that happens, I always want to look at the data and see whether that jump was justified or whether it was too much of an increase. And so I've studied the data, and I have some updates to give you about that. So partly this video is to educate all of you that might be interested in that, and you're wondering, for example, okay, there was a nearly 14,000 jump last Visa Bulletin. Will that happen again next Visa Bulletin? And I'm going to give you a prediction about that. And then, and I also wanted to have a look particularly at Addis Ababa, because I know that they got 114 2NLs this month. And we're not at the end of the month yet, so we haven't seen all of the 2NLs coming out for all of the embassies. But Addis has accepted 114. And so I wanted to see where that had taken us in terms of what number they had got to and what that really means, so that we can look at data ahead of time and try and figure out where Addis Ababa will get at the current pace of scheduling, if the current pace of scheduling continues for the following 6 months. Okay. Now, part of what prompted this second aspect of today's video is a very frustrating conversation I had to have with someone today, where the gentleman had just gone current. His case number was, I think, AF 29,000. He's at Addis Ababa. And because his case number is at 29,000, he's just got current. A couple of weeks ago, he was not current. Before he was current, he would have been able to move his case to any other region, any other embassy. But now his case is current, and he's been added to the AV status queue, the queue of cases that are lined up to that embassy. He can't move his case anymore. And so then the question really becomes, how fast will Addis move, and will they get to case number 29,000 for that gentleman? I wish he had listened to what I have been saying for some time now. I wish people would listen more and listen to me rather than other sources, shall we say, because I could have probably saved that guy's green card. And actually, as it's going to be, he's probably going to lose it. And it's because he's now locked into an embassy that he didn't need to be locked into. So let me start off with Addis and why I'm saying that. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken the file, and let me just show you my screen here. I've taken the file. Where am I? I'm there. I've taken the file and just filtered for the African cases at Addis Ababa, right? And to see where we get to. And so we have case number 81 as the lowest case number that they have issued, as you can see. And then as we scroll down to the last case number that they've got to, they're marked as ready, case number 5470. And that case was just scheduled in this last batch of scheduled interviews, right? And so that is pretty much where Addis have got to up to this point. And so they issued 114 2NLs and only got to case number 5,470. So how can we predict where they're going to get to in another 6 months of scheduling, if we assume they do about 110, 120 cases per month, right? So what we need to do to be able to do that is to take a range of numbers and figure out how many cases per thousand Addis Ababa is going to get. And this is an approximation, but we can do a pretty successful job. So if we go from 5470, let's go back to, let's give ourselves a full range of, let's say, 3,000 cases, which will be about there, right? That is 91 cases, right? So from case 2466 to 5470, there are 91 cases, right? Which is around about 30 cases per thousand. If we make that range a little bit bigger, let's do that. Just see if that's consistent. Let's make this now for 5,000 cases, right? We'll go back to 654 for about there, right? And 5,000 cases, we had 162. So yeah, that makes sense. For 5,000 cases, it's still about 31, 32 average, right? And so we can assume that going forward, there would be about 32 cases, let's say, per thousand, right? Which means if Addis release, let's say 110 2NLs per month, let's say they accept 110 cases per month, that would be about 3,500 cases of case numbers, right? It would take us roughly to about 20,000 more than today's number, 3,500 times 6 months, right? So that would leave us at about 20 to 21,000 cases more than today, and we're at 5,470. So on that basis, my expectation is that if Addis keep going at about 100, 110, 120 cases per month, we would get to about case number 25 or 26,000 by September. That's roughly what will happen, right? Now, could they increase the pace? Absolutely, they could increase the pace. And then we'll have to reset this conversation a little bit. But what it means is, for the gentleman that asked me earlier today about his case, since he allowed himself to be locked into that embassy, and he is case number 29,000, his chances of getting an interview have really, really gone very, very small. Because he's going to be, if anything, he might be getting an interview in August or September, if at all. Frankly, that's unlikely. I don't think they're even going to get to that point. And this is more or less predictable based on the number of cases that Addis decide to accept. Now, if they suddenly started to accept 200 and 300 cases per month, that would be a different story, okay? But I honestly don't know that that's going to happen. So I'm just sort of, trying to paint the picture of what will happen if they continue in this pattern. So it's really, really important, guys, that you listen to this advice. If you are case number 45,000 or so, 50,000, 60,000 or whatever, and you're at Addis Ababa, you're not yet locked into Addis Ababa as an embassy. You still have the ability for a short period of time, for the next 3 weeks or so, you have the ability to change your address and get assigned to a different embassy, right? That window is going to close when you become current. That opportunity is going to close when you become current. And if you are case number 45,000 and you get locked into Addis, then your chances are gone, okay? So you literally have to weigh this up and decide, look, am I going to listen to this British weird guy on the internet who says I've got to change my address to a different country? Or am I going to trust in that other YouTuber that says everything is going to be okay, or trust in God, or my uncle, my Uncle John from around the corner who knows everything because he knew someone who went through the DV process 20 years ago? Who are you going to trust, right? I'm trying to give you the data so that you can understand what I'm saying and have a real serious think about it. But if you're case number 40,000, 41,000, 42,000, and you think, oh, I'm pretty close, I'll probably go current next month. Yeah, you might go current next month, but that would be a really bad thing for you, because you would get locked into an embassy that's never going to take your case. Okay, so that's the first thing that I wanted to cover. That's most particularly about Addis Ababa. I hope they change their mode of working, but I can't guarantee they will, and that's why I'm telling you that. Accra is another embassy that is in a similar sort of way. Accra so far hasn't accepted cases for the month of March. They haven't had any 2NLs this month. They may get cases in the next couple of weeks, but I don't know what's going to happen there. So we need to have a similar conversation about Accra as well, because again, if you're case number 41,000, 45,000, and you're going to get locked into Accra, then again, you've got this same sort of thought process that you need to go through, and probably it's just as bad. Let me just look at the moment where Accra has got to. We filter on that. Now, as I say, they haven't had March interviews yet, but so if we have a look down there, they're at case number 4,300. Let's say they add another, 30 odd cases this month. Let's see. So from case number 2,000 to 4,300, there were 22 cases. I think that's too low. It's a bit too small a number to say we've got the full range there. I would say, let me just have a look at the 2,038. So yeah, I'm expecting something like 15 to 20 cases per 1,000 for Accra, maybe a little bit less, maybe 15 is more correct. But again, we'll be able to do the same sort of math. We'll be able to calculate what number will they get to if they only accept, for example, 30 cases per month, which is what they were doing last year, right? Where will they get to? And then you can calculate whether you're safe to try and remain at that embassy, or whether you should be moving your case, right? Now, this is kind of good news for someone who is, let's say, case number Africa 10,000 at Accra or Addis. You're probably going to be okay, right? Because we can see how things are moving. You'll probably be okay. Maybe at 15,000, maybe at 20,000, you'll probably be okay. But after that point, it becomes very sticky at those embassies. So be very careful about that. Okay. That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Now let's add in the rest of the embassies, and I want to show you something else. The other thing is sort of trying to predict what the Visa Bulletin is going to look like next month. Will we have another big jump? Okay, so there's a couple of things that I need to sort of explain to you, but basically, what we can see is this: if we look at the big embassies, and we look at the ones that are really performing well, right? And we look at, let's say, Algeria, for example, right? And we'll throw in there Casablanca as well, right? So they have both had 2NLs sent to them so far this month, right? Algeria and Casablanca. And you can see that Algeria has taken cases up to 33,788. And Casablanca has taken cases, let me scroll back here. Where are they? Casablanca has taken cases, actually, that looks like Casablanca, oh no, there's a CSB 26302. Let me see if there's a CSB above 26.5. I don't think there is. Hang on a second, so turn that off. Okay, highest case number in 26302. That tells me Casablanca hasn't had a batch of there's a lot of 19th dates. Yeah, they have. So they've had 2NLs, but they're still stuck at around about 26.5. So they are beginning to get backlogged. So Casablanca are beginning to get backlogged. Not badly, but they're a month backlogged, right? Now, it's not impossible that an embassy can get two sets of 2NLs in a month. That has happened before. But we need to keep an eye on that, right? And then let's have a look at Algeria. Algeria have taken cases up to 33,788. So you can see there, right? And let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can see this. Oops, not that one. This one. Right. Yeah, 33,788. Okay, so and that's kind of important because the Visa Bulletin is released up to 40,000. So why didn't Algeria take cases up to 40,000? What that means is that their capacity that they made available, which is a significant capacity, only allowed them to go up to 33,788. That means the Visa Bulletin, at least for Algeria, and I'll come to other countries in a minute, the Visa Bulletin for Algeria was too high, right? It didn't need to go to 40,000, okay? So it moved from 26,500 to 40,000, but that was too much for Algeria. And, you know, Algeria has only scheduled cases up to under 34,000. If we now look at other countries, I'll turn the rest of them on, and we look at all the cases for Africa and the highest case numbers that are scheduled so far, we can see cases have only been scheduled up to 34,655. Okay. We got some pretty good embassies in there: Freetown, Lomé, Bombay for some reason, Monrovia. Some of the leaders from my leaderboards, if you like, some of the high performing embassies are in there. And even with that, they've all only gone to about 34,000, just over 34,000, right? Now, again, we're not done for 2NLs for this month. This is an early look at what's happening. But if embassies in Africa haven't been able to use the full range of cases that went current, you know, excuse my daughter there watching a program. If they've not been able to take that full range up to 40,000, it means the Visa Bulletin went too far, and because of that, it's not likely to increase another big jump next month. In fact, it wouldn't be a total surprise to see almost no increase next month, because there clearly isn't capacity that justified the increase to 40,000. The Visa office made a mistake. Essentially, this is what that's telling me. Now, we will see over the next couple of weeks, we will see more 2NLs being sent out with some more embassies. And there'll probably be some embassy that's relatively small that takes cases all the way up to 40,000, right? But I don't think we've got any really big embassies that will do that. We'll have to wait and see. But I haven't looked at all the embassies, but that's, you know, that's something you need to pay attention. Sorry, I just want to have a look at Cairo. CRO, where are you? Yeah, Cairo. Obviously, Egypt has got. Yeah, see, they're still on 875, and they haven't had any 2NLs this month, right? All these cases that are marked ready were marked ready in mid-December, so they haven't had yet a new batch of 2NLs. So we're expecting to see Cairo, Accra, some of those embassies actually get some 2NLs in the next week or two. Okay, so that was the other aspect of the update that I wanted to give. And actually, I think this is important. I'm hoping that some of these YouTube channels that try and talk about DV, I'm hoping some of those channels are watching right now, because they're mainly giving bad information at the moment. And at least if they understand the point I'm trying to put across here, they won't be telling people that we're going to see another big jump next month, and we won't have people assuming that, you know, we're going to get to 55,000 or whatever in next month, because that's not going to happen. They will have quite a lot of cases just from what they already have programmed. Just to show you one aspect of that will come into play. If we look at the, let me just toggle this off. I like toggling this because Zathis just told me off. Okay, so this is the Africa chart, right? This is for Africa. This tells you basically how many holes there are per 1,000 cases. Now, we're about, they're current to 40,000, right? And we're about 34,000 where we're getting where we're getting cases scheduled. And you can see that there's a decrease in density at around about case number 32,000, right? So one of the countries is limited about 32,000. I don't know which country it is, but that's not important. But there is one of them that, at least, that is limited at about 32,000. The case number density decreases from around about 40% up to 32,000, and from about 32,000 to, let's say, 50,000 roughly, the case density is more like 30 to 33%. There's a decrease in density. So that means that they can, in theory, they can move the Visa Bulletin faster within that number range. But you have to take account the fact that there's when they're doing the Visa Bulletin for next month, there will already be cases between 34,000 and 40,000 that were current this month, but were not able to be scheduled because of not sufficient capacity at the embassies. And they'll have to give those interviews. Those interviews will have to be scheduled first before any new capacity can be added in, new Visa Bulletin numbers can be added into that capacity, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Africa stay the same number, 40,000, or go up to something like 45, 46, 47,000, something like that. Maybe the 50,000 mark, but that would be the most I would expect to see next month. Now, I hate doing predictions, and I generally don't do predictions on Visa Bulletin numbers, but I wanted to get this point across so that you're beginning to understand how things actually work, and also to cut the crap that I'm hearing from some of these other YouTube channels, because I get that feedback from misinformed people that then ask me questions and say, well, I've heard this will happen, I've heard this will happen, or I've calculated myself that it went up by 14,000 last month, so it's going to go up by 14,000 again. No, it's not going to work like that. I'm hoping that makes sense to you. Now, you may be from another region, and you're wondering if the other regions are behaving in the same way. What I can tell you is EU looks like it's scheduling up to its 16,000 number. I don't see evidence of the same sort of thing as we see here happening there. So I don't think there'll be a restriction on EU next month. Same thing in Asia. Asia's a little bit more difficult to read because of Iran and Nepal. But again, they seem to be scheduling up to the 7,000. South America is scheduling up to its full capacity, full Visa Bulletin number 2,200. Oceania is a little bit behind, right? So Suva Embassy took quite a few cases. That's going to be our biggest performer in Oceania. And I can see that they're a little bit behind. So it looks like they could have gone to case number 1,000, case number 1,050, and that would have been enough. So there's a little bit of an unused amount, just over 1,050 up to 1,200. So again, there'll be a little bit of a suppressed number next month on Oceania. I don't think we'll see a huge jump on that region either. Not as pronounced as Africa, but it's still there. Okay, so mainly for Africa, hoping that's making sense. I'm hoping you're understanding that. And what I really hope is the first part of the video that you're paying attention to. If you're in one of those backlogged embassies and you have a chance to figure out which number they're going to get to by the end of the year, then you really need to think about that to decide whether, I know it's not easy to consider a move to another country, which is really what you've got to do. But this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. And if you just sit there and wait for some miracle to happen that will not happen, then you're just going to lose this green card, and you did nothing about it. And, you could have done something about it. And I've explained things that you can do, right? You can transfer to another embassy. You can then get scheduled. You can even transfer back to your own embassy after you've been scheduled, right? You can transfer to the other embassy and you can take the interview there. There's all sorts of things you can do. But if you do nothing and you allow your case to be stuck in an AV queue right up until the end of September, then your chance is gone. And you really only have yourself to blame if you knew this information and you chose to do nothing about it. And I'm telling you very clearly what's going on. So you do know, okay? So like I say, I know it's not going to be easy for some of you to consider a move to another country. But if you've got contacts abroad in a different country where the embassy is performing well, let's say you're in Addis and you know people in Nairobi, then go move to Nairobi, right? And if necessary, you can come back. Let me show you something. Let me show you what happened. If we look at an individual embassy, right? I'm looking at DV 2023. Okay, Nairobi, NRB. Right. Let's have a look at Nairobi for a second. Now, Nairobi last year went up to 35,000, and then they had one case at 58,000. How did that one case suddenly get in there at 58,000? I'll tell you how. That one smart fella got himself in a position where he knew that he could be scheduled somewhere else, get his 2NL, and then transfer back to Nairobi. Right? That's what that one guy did. And let me just show you Addis. Similar sort of story, I think. Yeah. So Addis last year went up to case number 20,000 was scheduled, and then there's all these cases above that number, right? With a massive drop in the number of cases, but just the odd case here and there. That is people that figured out how to play the game. Okay, they may have been sitting in Addis Ababa. They realized what was going on, that they were not going to be scheduled in Addis because their case number 37,000 or case number 63,000 or whatever it might be. They moved to another country, right? They got scheduled and they transferred back. Once they had been scheduled in this other country, they transferred back to Addis, and Addis had to take their case. Okay, think about this, guys. This could save your green card. Okay, so I've hinted at this before. I don't want to make it loud and clear. I don't want to make it any clearer than I've just made it, to be honest with you. But if you're a listener of mine, you have the advantage of having the information of how to play this system. You don't have to pray to God. You don't have to hope for miracles. You just have to listen to what I'm saying to you. Okay, and read between the lines a little bit. Don't leave this up to miracles and mythical monsters. Take control of your case. Okay. All right, everybody. I'm hoping my point has got across. And if you're still listening to the video, congratulations to you. And if you can use this information and get your case sorted out, please let me know that's worked for you. If I can help just a few extra people to get their green card that would otherwise have lost their green card, that makes me a very, very happy man. All right. Thanks, everybody. Give me a thumbs up on the video if you like this video. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because if you're listening to other channels, you're listening to the wrong people. Honestly, you really are. I watched a video today from a guy, complete nonsense. Please come to the right place for information and take action to make sure your case is going to be okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.